I have been involved in the team teaching of 48240 Design and Innovation Fundamentals Unit since 2010. As a tutor being responsible for a small cohort of students, I treated my students always as stakeholders or partners in their own learning to solve a real-world challenge. For example, I grouped my students into three groups, namely co-creators, co-producers, and change agents, and delivered the Ford Pinto case study. This case study was a classic example of how Ford manufactured and introduced a small car called Pinto in a shortened period of time with its dangerously flammable design, surpassed its own as well as government's quality standard test, and defended their design-related decisions which effectively sacrificed people's lives for the sake of profits. Case study questions have been allocated to different groups, which encourage students to immerse in the case through continuous cycle of observing, reflecting, and interpreting their answers in multiple ways. To start with, I asked the student groups to brainstorm on the case study, and immediately there was an excitement in the air as this was their first experience to challenge a corporate attitude of design thinking. Then I have made them to line up their findings along the whiteboard and discussed as a class about their design thinking practice observation and basically compare and contrast their findings. I have noticed them taking responsibility for their own learning in several occasions and demonstrating a metacognitive understanding with greater power in terms of corporate social responsibility of 4. After the students groups presented their findings, I requested a volunteer from each group to stand up and summarize the approaches that they have taken, the skills that they have acquired, and in a whole class discussion, we quickly determined that the 4, as a business, had failed to demonstrate a social conscience. However, these pluralities from several perspectives led to some significant challenges with some international students in accepting similarities and differences between the different group findings from the stockholder view. They have taken this issue to heart and showed some reluctance in moving forward. Therefore, I suggested them to stay back after the tutorials and convince them with my explanation through several other examples. I even encouraged them to do some pre-reading before the tutorial and discuss the skills and materials they might need to complete each case study activity during the tutorials. On the positive side, they found my response was very convincing and to be useful at the later part of their study in accomplishing the other assessment tasks. Personally, I found this experience was even an eye-opener for me to ensure that I give clear instructions along with practical and reliable guidelines to international student cohorts to create basically a win-win synergy for them to embrace a problem-solving perspective at the commencement of every case study activity. Thank you.